My name is Nora Lynn. I'm 27 years old, and I thought I finally had everything figured out. A stable job as a freelance designer, a cozy apartment that always smelled like coffee and paint, and a boyfriend who made me feel safe after years of heartbreak. That boyfriend was Matthew Cole, 25. He wasn't the flashiest or the richest, but he made me laugh. He was kind in small ways, bringing me pastries, when I forgot to eat texting goodnight, even when we fought. For a long time, I truly believed he was the calm after every storm I'd weathered. Until the morning I saw it. Matthew had just come back from a guy's trip to the coast, 3 days of sun sand and what he called recharging with the boys. He looked relaxed, maybe even lighter. I thought it was cute how he hummed while making coffee shirtless, his skin still sun-warmed. Then he reached for a mug, and I noticed the edge of something dark beneath the clear plastic film on his rib cage. Ink, fresh, still healing. I blinked. You got a tattoo? He froze, half-smile still on his face. Yeah, just something small. What does it say? Matthew tugged his t-shirt down quickly. It's nothing, Nora, just a reminder. But I'd already caught a glimpse, 2 letters flowing together in thin, delicate cursive KM. My chest tightened. KM. The initials of his ex, Cara Monroe, the girl he once said had broken him so badly he'd stopped believing in love until me. At first I told myself I was wrong, that maybe it meant something else, but my voice still came out shaky and small. Matthew, are those Cara's initials? His expression shifted so fast I couldn't even track it. Shock, guilt, irritation, and then that familiar, defensive smirk. Why are you assuming that Nora? Because those are her initials, I whispered. You said she was out of your life. Matthew shrugged. She is. It's not about her. It's about who I was back then. Growth, you know. Growth. I repeated, my voice trembling. So you tattooed her initials on your ribs to symbolize growth. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing as though I was the problem. It's my body, Nora. I'll do what I want with it. There it was, that sentence, the one that turned my love into something fragile and foreign. I stared at him for what felt like forever. Then I said quietly, You're right, it is your body. But it's my choice who I share mine with, and I'm not sharing it with someone branded by another woman. He blinked. You're being dramatic. No, Matthew, I whispered. You're being careless. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked to the closet and started pulling my things from the drawers. My favorite mug, the extra toothbrush, my sketch pad. He followed me around, alternating between explaining and mocking, like he couldn't decide whether to comfort or insult me. It's just ink, he insisted. Then you won't mind being single with it, I replied. That stopped him cold. I packed in silence. Every rustle of fabric sounded like another piece of trust tearing apart. When I finally reached the door, he said almost bitterly, You're seriously throwing this away over a tattoo? I looked back. No, over what the tattoo represents. He didn't follow me this time. Maybe he didn't believe I'd actually leave. That night I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt too quiet, too empty. Every few minutes my mind replayed his words, It's my body. I used to admire his independence, now it just sounded selfish. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, running my thumb over the silver ring he'd bought me on our first anniversary. It wasn't an engagement ring, but it had felt like a promise. I slipped it off. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind. If he wanted to live in the past, he could stay there, but I wasn't going quietly. I changed my relationship status to single, no captions, no drama, just silence. The people who mattered would know what that meant. A few hours later, my phone buzzed nonstop. Mutual friends, curious texts, and one message from his best friend Zane. Hey, just a heads up that tattoo Cara was on that same trip. You didn't hear it from me. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Of course she was. In my mind, I could see it, the golden sunset, the laughter, the alcohol, the soft whispers of nostalgia that made bad decisions feel like closure. I closed the chat and turned off my phone. There are moments when heartbreak doesn't come as a loud explosion. It comes like water filling your lungs, slowly, steadily, until you realize you can't breathe anymore. That was me that night. Silent, drowning in clarity. By morning, I wasn't sad anymore. I was just done. I brewed coffee, took a long shower, and looked at my bare skin in the mirror. No marks, no initials, no ghosts. Then I whispered to my reflection, Your body, your choice. My peace, my choice. And for the first time in days, I smiled. 2 days after I ended things with Matthew, silence filled every corner of my apartment except for the ping of my phone. At first, I ignored the notifications, but curiosity always wins, eventually. When I finally opened my messages, I realized what had started. Matthew hadn't just accepted the breakup, he'd rewritten it. On social media, he'd posted a shirtless photo of himself by the ocean captioned, "Some people just can't handle a man being true to himself. My body, my choice." The comments were exactly what he wanted. "You dodged a bullet, bro." She sounds controlling. And beneath them all, his ex, Cara Monroe, had left a single heart emoji. I didn't cry this time. I just stared at the screen until my coffee went cold. That tiny red heart said more than a paragraph ever could. Later that afternoon, I went to my cousin Bria's apartment. She was sitting cross-legged on her couch, scrolling through her phone, her eyebrows furrowed. "Please tell me you've seen this," she said, shoving her screen toward me. Matthew's post glowed on it. I forced a smile. "I have. Guess he's healing publicly." Bria sighed. Healing or performing. Either way, everyone's talking about it. I sank into the couch beside her. Let them. I'm not explaining myself. Bria nodded. "That's probably smart, but Ethan's asking if he should take you off the wedding seating chart." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, do it. I'm not showing up next to a man who thinks bodily autonomy means tattooing his ex." She chuckled softly. "Fair enough. But for what it's worth, everyone's on your side." That night, I got a message from Zane Matthews' best friend, one of the only people from his circle who'd ever been genuinely nice to me. Zane. "Hey, just checking in. You okay?" "Me getting there." Zane. "Look, I didn't want to get involved, but you know that tattoo Cara was in the same town, same weekend." "Me." "Yeah, I heard." Zane. "He said it was a coincidence, but come on." The next message came with a screenshot Cara's Instagram story from that weekend, a cocktail glass clinking against someone's arm. The arm had a faint mark on the ribs wrapped in clear film. The caption read, "Some symbols never fade," and the date stamp matched Matthew's trip. I remember staring at that image for what felt like hours, not out of heartbreak anymore, but disbelief. He really thought he could lie to everyone, including me, and I'd just accept it quietly. But I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to post a rant or write a bitter caption. I just needed the truth. And the truth was already spreading on its own. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Matthew's mom, a woman I'd always liked. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, "Nora, honey, I just heard what happened. Please tell me it's not true." "It's true," I said gently. "That fool," she sighed. "A tattoo of her. Cara. After everything that girl did to him." "I guess he's still figuring things out," I said. Her tone softened. "He lost a good one. You're too calm, though. Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm learning that silence speaks louder than explanations," I said quietly. There was a pause, and then she whispered, "Good girl." By that weekend, Matthew's narrative had started to collapse. Someone, probably one of his coworkers, commented under his post, "Bro, didn't you get that done with Cara there?" Thought it was her initials. He deleted the comment within minutes. But as the internet always proves, screenshots live forever. My inbox began to fill with messages, screenshots, whispers, private apologies from his friends who'd believed his side. One of them, Derek wrote, "He's telling people you're obsessive, but I saw him showing off the tattoo at work like it was some tribute, just so you know." I thanked him. Then I muted every chat, every notification, every reminder. I didn't want to keep feeding the noise. Instead, I opened my art tablet. For the first time in weeks, I started sketching again, rough outlines of a woman floating in the sky, untethered, a single string snapping behind her. The next morning, I posted the finished piece. No caption, no tags, just the title, "Freedom Looks Good on You." By the afternoon, Bria texted, "Everyone's talking about your drawing. You didn't say his name, but everyone knows." Good. Let them connect the dots. Let them see the story for what it was without me ever needing to say a word. That night, I sat on my balcony, the city lights soft below me, the phone buzzing beside my coffee cup. One last message lit up the screen. "Matthew, you think you won because people took your side. You just made yourself look bitter." I stared at the message, then slowly typed back, "No, Matthew, I just stopped lying to myself, that's all." Then I hit block. The sound of it, that tiny click, felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in weeks. Some people think closure comes from confrontation, but sometimes it comes from nothing more than knowing the truth and choosing to stop explaining it. I leaned back, watching the city fade into night. The world kept moving indifferent to my heartbreak. And for the first time, I was grateful for that, because somewhere in the noise of screenshots and whispers, I'd finally found silence. And silence, I realized, was peace. A week after blocking Matthew, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd spent days drowning in confusion, replaying every word, every moment, every tiny red flag I'd ignored. But anger has an expiration date, and mine finally ran out. In its place came something sharper, clearer, the urge to reclaim myself. So one morning, I opened my laptop and stared at an email confirmation I'd been avoiding. A non-refundable booking for a couple's hot air balloon ride. Our anniversary surprise. The trip Matthew never got to go on. At first, I hovered over the cancel button, but then I thought of my brother Liam, the one who'd always been my anchor, even when I didn't deserve it. I called him. Hey, remember that balloon ride you always wanted to try? He laughed. Yeah, why? You're coming with me this weekend. The morning of the flight was crisp and quiet. The sky above the valley glowed pale gold, the world below still asleep. Liam grinned, his camera hanging around his neck. You sure about this? You're terrified of heights. Not anymore, I said, tightening my scarf. Turns out I've already fallen from worse. He chuckled softly. You're stronger than you think, Nora. The balloon lifted off the ground with a gentle whoosh. My stomach dropped for a second, then weightlessness. The earth shrank beneath us, tiny cars, winding rivers, distant trees. Liam pointed at the horizon. Look at that sunrise. I did, and for the first time since everything happened, I wasn't thinking about Matthew. Not his tattoo, not the lies, not even the noise. Just warmth, wind, freedom. Liam snapped a picture of me against the sky. You should post this, he said. You look like you finally let go. I smiled faintly. Maybe I have. Later that day, I did post it. A single photo of me standing in the balloon basket, hair tousled by wind sunrise spilling across my face. Caption: Sometimes you have to rise above what tried to break you. Within minutes, notifications exploded. Friends, coworkers, even old clients flooded my inbox with hearts compliments and quiet messages of support. Then, of course, Matthew saw it. He couldn't help himself. He reposted one of his old beach photos, the same trip where he got the tattoo captioned. Some people try to look happy for the camera. Some actually live it. It was so predictable it was almost funny. I didn't reply, didn't like, didn't even view his story. But apparently that silence stung worse than anything else. Because a day later, his mom messaged me again. Matthew's mom. Sweetheart. I just want to say that photo was beautiful. I showed it to my book club. You deserve everything good coming your way. Me, thank you. I'm trying to focus on better things. Matthew's mom good, because he's still spiraling. He said you humiliated him. I sighed. I didn't humiliate him. I just stopped covering his mistakes. Matthew's mom. That's usually what humiliation feels like, truth without protection. By the end of that week, the gossip wheel was spinning again. People started to question Matthew's version of events, especially after Derek, his coworker, commented publicly under his latest post, "Funny how the tattoo you already had was still healing when you came back from the trip." He deleted the comment, but too late. It had already been screenshotted and shared. A few of Matthew's friends began quietly unfollowing him. Others messaged me privately to apologize for believing his story. The cracks were showing. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. The following Sunday, I visited Bria and Ethan. They were finalizing their wedding details, seating charts, playlist, all the happy chaos of people building a life together. Bria poured me a glass of wine. You look lighter, she said. Maybe I am. Good, she smiled. You deserve peace. Ethan looked up from his laptop. Also, Matthew texted me. He wanted to know if he's still invited to the wedding. I raised an eyebrow. He seriously asked that. Ethan laughed. Yeah, I told him no. Bria didn't want his drama near her big day. Bria added softly, he said. He's misunderstood, that everyone's taking your side. Truth doesn't have sides, I said quietly. It just has timing. That night, I took one last scroll through social media before deleting the apps from my phone. Matthew had posted again this time, something that made me pause. It was a black and white mirror selfie with the caption, "Not all scars are mistakes. Some are reminders." His reflection was angled just enough to show the tattoo. And beneath it, the same comment pattern appeared: heart emojis, motivational quotes, and then Kara's familiar comment again. Always liked that one. It had only been up for 5 minutes before he deleted it. But I saw it, and that was enough. When I went to bed that night, I finally slept through until morning. No dreams, no racing thoughts. I woke up to sunlight spilling across my sheets and a message from Liam. The balloon photos everywhere. People love it. You went viral, sis. I smiled at the irony. Matthew had spent weeks shouting for attention, desperate to defend his pride. And all I did was take one quiet photo in the sky. The universe really does have a sense of humor. That afternoon, I visited a small tattoo studio downtown, not for ink, but to ask about removal. The artist, a woman with streaks of silver in her hair, looked up from her desk. You looking to erase something? I shook my head. No, just curious. She smiled knowingly. People think covering up pain means healing. Sometimes leaving it visible is the lesson. I nodded. I think I'll stay unmarked. Walking out into the sunlight, I felt it that elusive calm people write poetry about. Not the kind that comes from revenge, but the kind that comes from release. Matthew had his mark. I had my peace. Both were permanent in their own way. It's funny how quickly truth catches up with people who run from it. By the time Bria's wedding week rolled around, Matthew's picture-perfect narrative had started to unravel not because of me, but because of himself. It began with his latest attempt at damage control. He posted another photo, shirtless again, naturally captioned, "My body, my story. People twist what they can't understand." He must have thought it looked deep, but he didn't notice the detail everyone else did. The clear tattoo film was still on. The ink still looked new. Within hours, the comments section turned into a battlefield. "Didn't you say that tattoo was old? Looks fresh, bro. Wait, is that a cat?" Then the one that lit the fuse from his coworker Derek again. "Man, stop lying. You showed me that thing last month still peeling. Be honest for once." Matthew deleted the comment in under a minute, but the screenshots had already made their way through group chats, DMs, and inevitably back to me. That same night, Zane texted me. "He's spiraling. Started accusing everyone of betraying him. Said you turned his family against him." I sighed. His family turned against him because they have eyes. Yeah, well, he's been blocked from half his friend list now. Everyone saw Kara's comment on his last post. She commented again. "Yep, looks good on you, babe," then deleted it 5 minutes later. I stared at the message, half in disbelief, half in pity. Babe. That single word, public careless, loaded with implication, was like a match dropped into gasoline. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop again. Bria's name flashed on the screen. "You are not going to believe this. Matthew just called Ethan." I groaned. "What now?" "He said he deserves to still be part of the wedding party. He's trying to convince Ethan that you're manipulative, that you made up the whole tattoo thing to ruin him." I almost laughed. Does Ethan even believe that? He hung up halfway through the call. But here's the best part Kara liked, Bria's post about the wedding date. That was the moment everything clicked. Matthew wasn't trying to prove his innocence. He was trying to rewrite his humiliation to turn me into the villain and Kara into some symbol of freedom. But reality wasn't cooperating. Later that day, I got a DM from someone unexpected, Eliza, a mutual acquaintance who used to hang out with Kara. She sent a single message. "You didn't hear this from me, but Kara bragged that she and Matthew talked about old times on that beach trip. She called it closure. Said she gave him the idea for the tattoo. Closure, that word again. How convenient that closure always seemed to involve bad decisions and half-truths." I didn't reply. Some truths don't deserve a reaction, they deserve distance. Meanwhile, the wedding preparations hit full swing. Bria texted me the group chat screenshots, the bridesmaids discussing Matthew's tattoo drama like it was a soap opera. One message stood out. "Lydia. If he really wanted to move on, why still carry Kara on his skin, Maya? Exactly. Some people just can't let go of their ghosts." I didn't reply to that either, but it stuck with me. Because deep down I realized they were right. He couldn't let go, and that was the real difference between us. 3 days before the wedding, Matthew tried again to fix his reputation. He posted a notes app apology, the kind people write when they've run out of allies. It read, "I've made mistakes. I never meant to hurt anyone. My tattoo doesn't define me. Sometimes love gets twisted into control and people misinterpret freedom. I just want peace." It was the kind of message that looked mature at first glance, but said nothing. The comments, though, brutal. "Accountability isn't victimhood. Maybe don't lie next time. Tell Kara we said hi." And then the final blow. Kara's new boyfriend posted a picture of them at a concert. His caption, 6 weeks strong. Real love leaves no scars. The timestamp told the truth Matthew had tried to bury. 6 weeks. That meant while Matthew was getting her initials tattooed, she was already with someone else. I didn't gloat, didn't post, didn't message, didn't even smile. I just sat there on my balcony, the same place I'd cried a month ago, now watching the sky bleed into twilight. Sometimes karma doesn't scream. It whispers. And this one was whispering loud enough for the whole world to hear. The next morning, Bria sent me a photo. It was from the wedding rehearsal. Matthew had shown up uninvited wearing his old suit, insisting he was still part of the family. Ethan had to ask one of his groomsmen to escort him out. In the photo, Matthew's eyes looked hollow, a man clinging to a story that no longer existed. Bria texted underneath it, "You really dodged a lifetime of this. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then, without thinking, I deleted every old photo of Matthew from my phone, not in anger, not in sadness, just because I finally didn't need them anymore. That evening, Liam came over with takeout. We ate quietly on the couch, Netflix humming in the background. He glanced at me between bites. You ever think about messaging him? I shook my head. No, what would I even say? He smiled softly. Exactly. We clinked our chopsticks like glasses and laughed. For the first time in months, I laughed without bitterness. The next morning, I woke up to my art post, the one titled "Freedom Looks Good on You," hitting 10,000 shares. People were quoting it, writing their own stories under it, using my sketch as a symbol of letting go. It was strange watching my private heartbreak turn into something universal. But maybe that's what healing looks like, not revenge, not closure, just resonance. Matthew had a tattoo he'd never escape. I had art that would outlive the pain. Different kinds of permanence. By the time Bria's wedding day arrived, Matthew's name had become a whisper, a cautionary tale told in hushed tones over glasses of champagne. I stood near the edge of the reception garden, the evening air humming with laughter and string lights. Couples twirled under the canopy, a soft melody playing from the live band. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a ghost at someone else's happiness. I felt free. Bria hugged me tight, her veil brushing my cheek. You look peaceful, she said. I smiled. I think I am. Good. Because guess who showed up in the parking lot and got turned away? I raised an eyebrow. Matthew, yep, tried to apologize publicly before the ceremony. Ethan told him to go home. I let out a soft laugh, shaking my head. Still chasing an audience, I see. Let him, Bria said. Everyone's already seen through him. The next week was quiet. I went back to my work routine, morning coffee, client calls, late nights, painting or sketching. But something had shifted. Colors looked brighter. Music felt alive again. Even silence, once suffocating, had become comforting. It's strange when heartbreak first hits you. Think healing will be loud, full of grand gestures and dramatic rebirths. But in reality, healing happens in whispers, in the way you stop checking their page and how you start laughing without remembering the sound of their voice. That was me now. One afternoon, I was at a local art cafe, sketching, when a familiar face appeared across the counter. Henry, the cafe's barista, tall, soft-spoken, and always with paint stains on his fingers. He smiled. You again. Let me guess. Iced caramel, latte, extra shot. Guilty, I said. He glanced at my tablet. You're working on something new. Trying to, I admitted. It's about letting go. Henry nodded. That's hard to draw, isn't it, letting go? It used to be, but lately it feels easier. He smiled again, slow, genuine. That's a good sign. We talked for 20 minutes about art, travel, and music. When I left, I noticed he'd written something on my cup sleeve. Keep rising. You look like the sky suits you. For some reason, that line stayed with me all day. That night, I checked my phone for the first time in days, a mistake. A message notification popped up. Not from Matthew directly, but from Terrell, a mutual friend. Yo, you need to see this. Attached was a screenshot from a private group chat. Matthew's name at the top. Matthew. I only got the tattoo because Kara said she still thought about me. She made me feel like it meant something. Nora never understood that. My chest tightened for a brief second, not from pain, but from déjà vu. Same excuses, same circular logic, same inability to take responsibility. Terrell, he's telling people you're stalking him now. Just a heads up. Me, I haven't even looked at his page. Terrell, yeah, everyone knows. He's losing it. I thanked Terrell, muted the chat, and finally did what I should have done months ago. I blocked Matthew's name from every platform, every thread, every corner of my digital life. Then I exhaled. The next morning, I walked to the pier at sunrise. The wind tangled my hair as I stood there watching the light spread across the water. It wasn't symbolic, it wasn't cinematic, it was just quiet. And in that quiet, I realized something profound. Matthew had been my storm, but he wasn't my story. My story was everything after him. A week later, Henry found me sketching again. He placed my usual drink on the table and leaned against the counter. Still drawing freedom, he asked. Always, I smiled. But now it looks less like running away and more like coming home. He tilted his head, studying my sketch, a balloon rising higher than the clouds, the string trailing behind. That's beautiful, he said softly. You know, I think healing's an art form. Most people rush it, but you're taking your time. I met his eyes. I used to think healing meant forgetting. Now I think it means remembering without hurting. He smiled. That's the kind of person worth getting to know. Something in the way he said it felt easy, not like a promise, but a possibility. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from restlessness, but from contentment. I looked through my old art files, the ones filled with sketches of Matthew's face, his hands, his eyes. Without deleting them, I simply moved them to a folder titled Lessons. Then I opened a blank canvas, and for the first time in months, I drew myself. No balloon, no heartbreak, just me standing still smiling. Underneath it, I wrote a single line. Healing doesn't make you who you were before. It makes you someone new. 2 days later, I saw Henry again. He waved as I walked in, holding up a cup with my name already written on it. Nora, he said. Your usual. Yeah, I smiled. But make it decaf this time. Big day. I nodded. Big change. Because for the first time in a long time, my life didn't revolve around anyone else's choices, just my own. I left the cafe that day humming to myself, sunlight following me down the street. The past no longer felt heavy. The silence no longer felt empty. And that small, ordinary moment, coffee in hand, heart unguarded, felt more like healing than any revenge ever could. 2 months after the wedding, I got a message request. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. For a second, Matthew Cole. He'd been blocked everywhere, so seeing his name again felt like a ghost resurfacing. The message preview read, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I almost deleted it without opening. But curiosity has its own gravity, doesn't it? So I tapped it. Nora, I know I messed up. The tattoo. It wasn't about Kara. It was about what I lost after her, what I thought I'd never find again until you. You meant more to me than I admitted. I ruined everything. I've been trying to get the tattoo removed, but it's taking forever. I wish I could take back that whole trip. Can we talk? For a moment, I just stared at the message. The old me, the one from months ago, might have cried, might have drafted a long, emotional response. But the new me... She simply sighed. I typed, I hope the removal goes well, Matthew, but I've already said everything I needed to. He read it immediately, and predictably, his tone flipped. You're so cold. After everything, I thought you'd at least understand. I'm trying to be better. I hesitated, then replied, You're right, Matthew. It's your body, your choice. But choices have consequences. Some just happen to be permanent. A few seconds later, the typing bubble appeared, then vanished. Then came one final message. I feel sorry for whoever you date next. I smiled, faintly shaking my head. And I feel sorry for whoever has to look at those initials until you finish paying for their removal. Blocked. Again. For the last time. That night I met Henry at the pier, our unspoken ritual. He'd brought 2 coffees, one for each of us, still steaming in the cool breeze. We sat on a wooden bench, the ocean whispering beneath the fading light. Rough day, he asked gently. I shrugged. Just ghosts trying to come back from the dead. He smiled. You seem like you know how to bury them. Not bury, I said softly. Just stop feeding them. Henry laughed quietly. That's poetic. I've had a lot of practice, I replied. He handed me his phone. Look. It was a picture someone had taken of my art piece, Freedom Looks Good on You, printed and hung inside a small gallery downtown. They're showcasing local artists next month, he said. You're one of them. For a second, I couldn't breathe. That's mine. He nodded. Yours. People love your story. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. For months, I'd been defined by someone else's mistake. Now my own healing had become art. Something beautiful. Something unscarred. Weeks passed. Matthew faded completely from my feed, from conversations from my mind. But once in a while, I'd hear little fragments from others, like faint echoes from another life. Zane mentioned that Matthew finally started the tattoo removal process. Apparently, it was painful and expensive. $5,000, 12 sessions. The irony wasn't lost on me. All that money, all that pain, just to erase the thing he'd claimed was about growth. One evening, as I walked home from the cafe, I paused outside a tattoo parlor. The buzz of the machine hummed softly through the window. Inside, a girl sat getting a small, delicate flower inked on her wrist. Her smile was wide. She looked proud, fearless. For a second, I thought of Matthew, how a single impulsive choice, one moment of ego, had rewritten both our stories. Then I smiled, because his story ended with regret. Mine didn't. Later that night, Henry texted me a photo, a sketch of 2 hot air balloons, one small, one large, rising together into the clouds. Thought of you, he wrote, the one who taught me that peace isn't silence, it's freedom. I saved it without replying, my chest warm. Maybe someday I'd fall in love again. Maybe not. But for now, I was enough. A few days later, Bria and Ethan came by for dinner. We laughed about wedding drama, shared memories, and for the first time, no one mentioned Matthew. It felt final. When they left, I stepped out onto my balcony, the same place I'd once cried under the city lights. Now it smelled like jasmine and fresh air, the same sky but a different woman standing beneath it. I whispered almost to myself, her body, her choice, my peace, my life. And it hit me that phrase had come full circle. What used to sting had become a reminder of power. His tattoo was fading painful and costly. My freedom was permanent, effortless, and earned. As the night settled around me, I picked up my sketchbook one last time. On the final page, I drew a simple image, a balloon drifting upward, strings cut clean, weightless. Underneath, I wrote, "Some marks fade, others make you